Welcome to the 2020 Warrior Games Roundtable. Of course, bringing to you where the massive team is excited to host you guys and bring you guys together to celebrate the Warrior Games. And even though in 2020, of course, we're missing out, but we want to keep the momentum moving forward. As it's been mentioned, my name is LJ Eve. I'm the Mass Site Coordinator at Naval Medical Center San Diego. And I'll be co-hosting today along with Gabby Ruck, our Navy Service Lead. We also have several other MASP team members present, and most of you were invited by them or are familiar with them. So we've got Patrick, as you guys have met, as our gatekeeper. We have Brad Bowen from San Antonio. Also from San Antonio, we have Jessica with the Air Force. We have Elisa with the Air Force, and Kelly Fisher with representing the Marine Corps, and Lori with the SOCOM members. So without, it's our pleasure to welcome you guys all, and we looking forward to a great conversation. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Gabby for a bit of a roll call.
Thanks, LJ, and thank you all so much for coming and participating, whether you're actually going to speak or if you're listening. You know, we always appreciate a participation and just support in general. But I would like to introduce our panel, and I'll go by service. So everyone, guys and women, men and women, if you could just state your first name, what service you have served or currently serve, how many years you participated in Warrior Games, and your favorite event or events that you wanted to briefly talk about. And we'll start with, let's go with SOCOM.
I'm Philip Fong, Chief Active Duty in the Navy, stationed here in Tampa. And I participated in 2 Warrior Games. I did Colorado Springs and here in Tampa last year.
Welcome. And let's go to Army, and there's Anna and David.
Hi, David Crook. I participated in 2017 Warrior Games in Chicago and 2018 in Colorado Springs. Favorite event, field, has to be field.
Hi, I'm Ana Mancias. I'm living in Denver, Colorado right now, and I participated in the Warrior Games at West Point, and my favorite event was swimming.
I love swimming and I love Colorado, so I'm like partially biased. Woot woot. And from Marine Corps, we have Carnell and Tisha.
Hi, my name is Carnell Martin. United States Marine Corps, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. I participated in the 18 Warrior Games and the 19 Warrior Games, and my favorite competition, powerlifting.
I'm Tisha, and this is Cuse, and I participated in the 2018 and 2019 Warrior Games. I'd say I can't choose a favorite sport, but I'll just throw out team sports out there because it's where my heart lies.
I know we all have a difference, whether it's they want and love the individual sport or they want and they love the team sport. I never feel like there's an in-between. But thank you, Marine Corps. And then my near and dear Navy, we have an honorary Coast Guardee, Jacob Cox, and then also from Navy, Lauren and Jason.
I'm Jacob Cox. I'm currently in Columbia, South Carolina, and I competed in the 2019 Warrior Games in Tampa. And my favorite sport would be powerlifting.
I'm Jay Roberts, and I was in the 2017 Warrior Games and 2019. Favorite was not my best, but it was the most enjoyable, wheelchair rugby.
And then finally from Air Force, we have David and Brett.
Yeah, I'll go first.
He goes first.
She said David first, Brett. Get it together. So my name's David Snyder, Senior Master Sergeant, E8 Air Force, and I did Warrior Games 2019. Favorite event was hands down cycling. I enjoyed that thoroughly. You're up, Brett.
I'm senior. Thank you, Dave. Dave and I were roommates for a little bit before, so yeah. Hi, I'm Senior Airman, retired Brett Campfield. I competed in Warrior Games in 2018 and 19. Did a lot of sports, had a lot of good opportunities, know a lot of people on this call, at least by face. My favorite event is also my least favorite event. The 4-minute row is brutal. It sucks. I don't like doing it, but I also enjoy doing it. So I'm going to go with rowing.
I'm sure Patrick will have a few things to talk to you about. Well, thank you guys so much. We do want to get into the questions, and anyone else who has been to Warrior Games, please do not hesitate to feel like, if you need to express your opinions, thoughts, emotions as well during this time. There is a chat box for any questions that Patrick will be filtering through. So we do thank you guys again for the introductions, and we'll start with our first question. Basically, when you get selected for Warrior Games, it's such an emotional time, whether that's positive, negative, somewhere in between, kind of don't know how you're feeling. And, we always talk about the training aspect of how you train for Warrior Games, but how did you mentally prepare? So my question for you guys is, what were your first feelings and thoughts when you first found out you were selected for Warrior Games? And we're not going to go in a specific order. If you feel like you want to answer, feel free to jump in.
I would say excited and very motivated. Excited to learn about the process for my first year, get selected for the team, and I was already training hard, but it gave me that extra boost of motivation to prepare for the next step, which would be the games.
Yeah, I would echo Jacob. I was excited. I've been in the program with Adaptive Sports for probably about 6 years before I made my first Warrior game. And just all the preparation and the training and competing prior to, I was excited. I was like, I finally got to get to make the A team. So I was excitement was definitely a plus for me to finally saying, hey, I made the team. So it was kudos for me on that. So definitely excited. Yeah.
I could say it was a bit of a shock for me. In 2017, they redid how they're selecting the teams. And I think it was February I heard about the opportunity, but it was too late because teams were already selected. And then the next month I got a phone call, would you like to try out? And I was just shocked. So I was excited. I had started training and set up a program for like 12 months to get ready for the next year. And then 1 month later, I'm trying out for the team again. It was pretty cool.
I think I have a interesting experience in trying to be selected for Warrior Games, but it all started with trying to go to Marine Corps trials. So I was ready to give up on applying to get to go and compete because the first time I applied, it was in 2014, and I applied every single year until 2017 or 18 was the first time I actually got to go. And I had told myself that I was done. Like I'm sick of trying. If I was putting myself through so much stress trying to be selected. And then I was like, you know what, one more time. I'll apply one more time. And if it doesn't happen, I'm done. And I was finally selected. So after 5 years of or 4 years of applying, one on active duty, so total of 5, it turns out it was totally worth the wait. I wish I could have played sooner, but I'm so happy that I was selected. Like words can't describe the feeling, but I'm just glad I didn't give up because the experience was amazing. So.
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. Me, I started, I went to trials, and that was right about after my second knee surgery, and that's when I was told they were going to have to put me in the MEB. So I already knew I was I was going to be on my way out at that rate. And then I went to Army trials, and a couple weeks after that, I got told I got picked up for the Warrior Games. So that was, for me, I was happy, because I got to be part of the Army team, even though I knew my military career was going to be ending, I got to represent, for my branch again. So.
I think being selected for SOCOM team for Warrior Games my first time was pretty exciting as well. I think it was a unique experience. Being a Navy guy representing SOCOM, I think that made it even better just for the preparation and mental preparedness that I know what I was going to have to do to represent properly.
I got to be selected for Team SOCOM in 2015. Is from my Care Coalition guy asked me I wanted to participate. And I really enjoyed the team sports of sitting down volleyball. I did the swimming events and I did archery. And I made some really good friends on Team SOCOM and still communicate with them throughout the year. But I've had a lot of really good memories going to different team camps there at MacDill Air Force Base and meeting all the other veterans. It was a good opportunity for me.
My name is Henry Taylor, branch of service U.S. Army. I competed in the 18 and 19 Warrior Games, part of Team SOCOM. My feeling when I first found out I was selected for Warrior Games, I didn't take it as serious until, all the other members who've been on the team and competed before was like, that you got selected. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like, it's a different feeling. It's just like going to the Super Bowl. And so I was like, all right. And then once the first one I competed in was when we arrived at Colorado and how we had the red carpet treatment. And I was like, whoa, it's really real now. And then just getting the different team equipment, the team gear, as far as the clothing, letting the introductions, as far as Team SOCOM had the gray, Team Army had this color, Team Navy had that color, Team Air Force had that color, and then the foreign services that competed. So I was like, oh, it's real. And it's like the competition gets even realer once we start playing, and you'll see sometimes you'll just push yourself to injure yourself a little more. So I was like, all right. And during the practices and the warm-ups and just seeing how serious everyone else was taking it, it kind of turned me on. Because that's when I switched on to being deployed. You train up, but it's not real until you get into the country or get into your area you're going to operate. And so once I started noticing all that, I turned on and it's like, look, you're on the news, they're recording it. It's like ESPN. And that's when I realized that it was serious. And I was blessed and I was glad to be a part of the team and to be able to celebrate that moment and meet new people, new friends from different countries and different branches because of competing.
Moving on a little bit from when you were initially selected for the team, we want to kind of ask about any quick memories or experiences in that first Warrior Games competition that you might have had or that you'd like to share.
The first experience that I've had is when I seen the arena, when I seen how everything was set up and all the different people coming out and supporting. And like how when we were in Colorado, some areas just shut down. And the whole entire focus, and just like the Olympic trials or anything else, it was like, you're here for the Warrior Games, you compete. It's like, yes. And just how everyone embraced you. And they were proud to see you competing. It's just like, I remember when we went to Chicago, and they started sharing their experience and their stories. And listening to them and then being a part of it and then just watching it unfold and take place in my eyes, it was like, I'm supposed to be here. So it was a moment that I was like, I'm supposed to be here. And I just embraced it, and I embraced everything around me and everyone around me and all the support that you had, for as, if you had any injuries, if you needed to go someplace, just people were just so friendly and just willing to help you. And so it made me feel more part of a family, like I was still in the military, still active duty, still serving.
I'd like to second what Henry said. When I got to the campus and I not only saw the people I had been training with up until this point, so it'd be like my Army people, but then I saw the people from the other branches. It was such a sense of family after being out of the military for so long and regaining that sense of like brotherhood, sisterhood, that family again. And so we're competing against each other, but it's that kind of good-hearted kind of competition where you're just talking smack all the time, but it comes from a place of love. And I can't find that there's nowhere else that you can find something like that. Not only your military family, but also injured people who are in the process of recovering or have already recovered. So as an amputee, I got to talk to other amputees while they're running, and they would give me tips like, this is what you do and this happens. You can't get that anywhere else. So for that reason, it was a unique experience. I don't think that I could get anywhere else. And I apologize, I have to leave. I have something else to do, but it was really, I mean, this was really close, right? Zoom allowed me to see everybody again, so it was nice seeing everybody. Thanks.
So to continue that, so in 2018 was my first time at games, and some of you guys are in this chat kind of remember the first day of competition in 2018, I believe was a track and field day. And the first thing that happened was the windstorm. The windstorm came in and knocked down all the awnings in the bleachers in the area around track and field. So we had to postpone it one day. And some people got to maybe not do a certain event that they wanted to. And one of the lessons, at least on the AFW2 side, I'm sure all the services were there and talking about it, the idea of, hey, we're here for a number of reasons, whether it be adaptation from injury or other kind of resiliency-esque things. And so we looked at it like that, like, hey, how are we going to bounce back from the specific thing? And overall, even though that people were starting to get, I'm not going to say starting to get like heated, but again, some people were like, hey, I've been training for 6 months to do this one event. What do you mean I can't do it? And that, as much as that sucks, the support that all services, I think, showed to adapt to that, because we had to delay the start of competition one whole day, was awesome. And it goes back to the idea of like, that's what this is about. It's not necessarily about specific individual performance. In some ways it is. If you're there to get after it, that's for you. But some of it's about, okay, cool, how do we adapt from this? How do we actually continue on and continue the competition? So that was really cool in 2018 to kind of have a, well, let's call it a false start, and it kind of got some nerves out. So it was cool to see us all adapt from that.
Yeah, I comment on that also. 2018 was my first games, and my most memorable moment was track and field in Colorado. Just the teamwork, not only with our team, but we had a team. We had a athlete on our team named Rob, who was the double amputee. Rob was running in a race, and he could have broke the record, could have smashed the record, but he went back and helped another vet from another team to get across the race. And that was so impressive, not only to me, but fans out there and to the world on what the games were all about. It's come together as a team, as a military, having fun, competing against each other, but also supporting each other on different teams. And that was the most memorable moment for me.
Yeah, I agree with what they're saying. At the end of the day, everyone's trying to win, but we've all been on at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We'll all give each other a little smack talk, but it doesn't matter. From that, when Rob was running, yeah, we also had the I can't remember his name, the SOCOM gentleman during swimming, that 100-meter, he was awesome. Seeing those kind of things is really motivating to a lot of people. Like my big thing was in 2017. That was my first Warrior game, and in 2017 at the track and field, well, actually it was the field event. My buddy from the Navy, Popo, he threw before me in the discus, and we had to have his family move when I threw, because I became that guy for the Warrior games when I threw the disc in the stands. So that was a pretty good moment.
Yeah, big moment for me was when we first got there and we're doing the track and field. I was apprehensive about coming at all, and I was honored when I got picked. I got there, and I still kind of questioned if I belonged. And I just got finished getting whipped at one of the track events, and as I crossed the finish line, Jared and Turbo were standing there, and I got this picture of them like high-fiving me, welcoming me across the finish line. And that's kind of the moment that sealed it up for me. Like, I belong here. We're all together. We're all doing this together. And it was pretty memorable for me. I really enjoy looking at that picture occasionally.
A memorable moment that I had that sticks out to me was during swimming. Some of the races, I have another team member that I'm very competitive with, and we swim very similar times. And we don't always see eye to eye about who finished and whatever, but during the games, so many of our times were like so close. Like she'd win one and then I would win one. But on one of the events on the breaststroke, I broke a record. And typically for her and I, we'd have a little tiff over it, like all in good fun for the most part. But to see that she was there and supported me and was happy for me in that moment was awesome, because we're both super competitive, but we're never going to put each other down for, being successful. And even if she wanted to beat me so bad, which she 100% did, 100% wanted to beat me, she was still there to have my back and congratulate me. And then we even worked later on together to see how we could improve her stroke to get a better time. So that's so many magical moments all in one, but related to swimming.
I guess my first time in 2015, I was doing the 100-yard swim event at Quantico, Virginia. And I did the first lap okay, but on the second lap, I had a really bad acid reflux reaction, like a heart attack in my chest. And I had to swim with one arm going across the swimming pool, and I made it. I was like the slowest one. And all the teams were clapping for me. But then I was rushed to the hospital later on and found out it was disaster reflux. But that was a very memorable event. Everybody kind of knew about it and thought I was going to die. But it's a good laugh. But it's something that you won't forget.
But David, I feel like David asked from Air Force. I feel like you brought up a good point about feeling like if you belong on a team or not. And I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there's a bunch of other people out there who have that same feeling. And that kind of goes into our next question, which is, since your injury or illness diagnosis, what does victory mean to you these days? Whether it's during Warrior Games, at home, the little things that matter, what is victory to you?
What does victory mean for me? So in 2018, when I made the team, I didn't really, it was more of, I don't want to call it a fluke, but I went to Air Force trials last minute as a visually impaired athlete, got picked up for the team, and that was great. Most of my, I'll say, competition at 2018, there was only like 4 of us. 4 or 5 of us in the visually impaired category. And so I wasn't in what I would call satisfactory physical shape. I wasn't happy with most of my results in regards to like, hey, how prepped am I? How good am I in that regard? And so once that Warrior Games 2018 finished, 2019, the way I looked at it almost right away, I was like, actually it was like not even a week after, because I didn't swim in 2018. I was like, I want to come back and I want to swim next year. So I swam within days, just to like kind of see how I felt, because I knew I wanted to come back stronger, better, faster, all that stuff. And in 2019, so then I got to compete as the ultimate champion on the male side for the Air Force team, and that was awesome because it forced me to train in a lot of different sports I've never even touched before. That was awesome. So when I went to Warrior Games 2019, it wasn't about winning gold. It was about, to me, like I had goals that I individually set in my training. Like, cool, I want to run the 100 meter in this time. I want to swim and I want to hit this goal. And it didn't matter where it was in regards to, did I win gold? Did I win silver? That's not really up to me, because other people are getting after it and they're training too. So with the ultimate champion thing, like I think of the 8 different sports I did, I had 5 soft goals in the sports and I hit every single one of them. And so the phrase I use is like, as far as I'm concerned, I got gold in all of those events. It felt great. If I would have gotten an actual gold medal, I don't think it would have changed much. That was my victory. It was my individual victory, because I set that apart for myself, and some other people crushed me, and other people, tried to keep up. But no, it was a lot of fun. So it felt great that I came back and had a little redemption for 2019. Which then eventually got me on the Invictus team for next year.
No, I was just saying off of what Brett said, it's pretty interesting. So Brett was going off of his 2018 numbers, and I had never heard of the Warrior Games. I didn't know it existed, doing 12 years in the military before I was medically retired, until I got a phone call one day from one of the Team Navy staff, and she told me all about it. And I probably kept her on the phone for like 2 hours, just asking all these questions until I finally got the grasp of it. And then I YouTubed probably every single video that's on YouTube about the Warrior Games, going years and years back, just every video. But when I realized that I was going to be in the visually impaired classification, I looked up the years previous just to kind of get a rough estimate. Where would I need to be? Where, what are these athletes doing before me? And it's kind of funny because I looked up every single one of Brett Canfield's numbers. I knew what races he ran because as a visually impaired athlete, you can only compete in certain individual sports. And I looked up all of his things, and I was like, okay, so this is a rough area of where I need to be to do this and do that. And competing in my first year in 2019, victory kind of comes as, like he was saying, I've set those goals, and now the next games I do, my goal is to improve, train harder, and almost run faster, shoot a higher score, lift more weight, everything that I did that first year. And I think for me, victory is, what it means to me is to not let your illness or injury define you, and improve and do better and do things that maybe you didn't even do previous to your injury. The first track meet I've ever been to, the first field, I don't know if you call it a meet, but field meet, any of those things that I've ever been to was when I walked onto the track and I walked into the shot put and disc at the Warrior Games. That was the first meet, the first official time. I'd never even witnessed one. So it actually worked out in a way because as a visually impaired athlete, I had a guide. So it kind of worked out that I had somebody saying, this is where we're going to start. This is because I had no idea. So for me, doing things that I did not do when I was fully healthy and had perfect vision, doing those things now, post illness, I think that's a huge victory for me because it's the adaptive sports program is putting me into situations where I'm doing things that I never did before and may not have ever done in my adult life. And I'm actually doing them now with my illness and my disabilities. So that's victory to me is doing things that I may never have done before and may not ever have done now with the Warrior Games and the training camps and everything. So I'm so appreciative of the program as a whole.
To piggyback on that really quick, just because, right when I saw Jake on this call, I was like, hey, I remember Jake. I talk about that all the time. So in regards to like the Warrior Games, it is partly for me, a big reason I do it is for other people. I remember Jake was like, hey, you're Brett, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and this was on the powerlifting day. I remember this like fully. And he was like, hey, I want to let you know, I looked up all of your times. And I used you as a thing. And I basically told him, like, hey, man, that's awesome. I want you to come get it, right? And I told him, hey, I did the exact same thing. Dorian Gardner on the Marine side. Yeah, I looked up all of his times, running, swimming, throwing. And I was like, those are the numbers I'm going to use as a baseline to develop myself. And I want to be close to that. So it's always awesome to see, like, our efforts across the way. For all I know, Jake and I, like, we put it up times. We have things like that. There's probably somebody right now looking at some of our times going, hey, I want to meet Jake's number. I want to meet Brett's number. And that goes across all classifications, not just VI. So it's always awesome to think it doesn't end with us. We are seeds and representatives for other people. And that feeling, I hate to say selfishly, it feels good.
Well, victory for me mean having an organization like the Wonder Warrior Regiment in adaptive sports and knowing that I get up every morning and have an opportunity to compete again one day, and to influence the younger Marines or younger athletes coming up. Like this year for the Marine Corps trials, I didn't compete, but I was a coach in powerlifting. And I would never got that opportunity if it wasn't for the adaptive sports and the regiment providing that opportunity. And just to see those young athletes compete and win was a win for me. So victory for me is having an opportunity and giving back to the program. That's what victory means to me.
I'd like to piggyback off that. When I first started the program, I didn't know it at the time, but I was very isolated and I didn't talk to people. I wasn't comfortable in groups. And near the end of the Warrior Games of 2017, I didn't feel alone anymore. And I didn't know that I was alone. And by the end of that tournament or set of games, I felt like I was part of something again with people who could understand what I had been through. And I could talk to people about my experience. So that was a huge victory for me and not feeling alone. And the next time around, I wanted to make sure that anyone else, similar experience, maybe felt isolated or alone, didn't leave the games like that. I was able to connect with some people who were standoffish at first and help them get over that roadblock in their life. So that was a big victory for me to help someone not feel isolated and let them know that they're not alone.
Those definitions of victory are fantastic. I mean, just to keep going with those, does anybody else have a comment on that previous question?
Yes, I'll comment on the previous question. From competing in the first Warrior Games into the second Warrior Games, just like everyone else said, one, we didn't know what we were facing or dealing with, what we were getting into. And then after competing, as warriors, as competitors, as anyone that competes, we felt as though we left something on the table. And that's the way I felt because of the opportunity, because of my injuries and because of what happened at the Warrior Games, me getting part there, which was a good thing. I was able to come back and continue my training. So I was afforded the opportunity to train on Fort Benning with the Army team, the WTB here. And, cycling, rowing, everything, they always had something going on to where my training, I can monitor my training now. I could see it, and it helped improve. And after competing, victory to me is being able to share the experience with individuals who are trying to get on the team, is trying to compete, and that may have questions for us, anxiety, like, how was it for you? I was like, it's something that you will never forget. It's a memory that you'll never forget, and that's my victory. Still being able to cycle with them, with the individuals. Like right now, they're preparing for the next year because of what happened with the COVID. So just being a part, that's a victory for me. Being able to share my experience as a mentor, as a coach, that's a victory for me. And just being able to do it, recovering from the injuries is a victory.
I'd like to throw some in. So victory for me, what does that look like? For me, it's being able to see my kids and my wife not only just watch me train, but actually compete. And, in Tampa, my family was here. It was we're at home. And I think that was the best feeling, just having your kids look up to you other than just dad. And, that was a victory for me for sure.
The way that I looked at how I define victory in regards to this conversation is really just that the victory to me was that I was able to do something that I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do, and I surprised myself with the ability to do it, because before trials, games, and all that, I was afraid to push myself because I fought so hard. After breaking my back and losing some functions, I fought so hard to get to where I was. I was so afraid that pushing myself would cause me to not, to set me back. So the victory to me was that I was able to succeed in just doing. I mean, I happened to do very well, but I think that's because I pushed myself too hard in training. But that the real victory to me was just getting out there and doing it. And I think that a lot of people feel that way as well. And as Henry had stated, post Warrior Games and trials, one of the things I enjoy most, and that is a new victory to me, is being able to share it with others who either don't think that they're able to compete due to whatever reason, and I can talk them through them and help coach different types of sports and get them feeling to where they can find a new victory for themselves and set goals and go and compete, even if it's not through trials or Warrior Games, just somewhere around town or just in their daily life.
Yeah, like what she was saying is, so I like helping people get introduced to adapted sports around here as well. Of course, like field's my bread and butter. I'm gonna take another Army veteran. Actually, this weekend we're gonna go up to Marble Falls and we're gonna go to a track and field competition, and so he can see what it looks like, and so hopefully get him into it. And I think he wants to try get into archery as well. So I just like to introduce people. It's not just because that's the great part, I guess, about adapted sports. Doesn't matter what kind of injury there is. There's always a way for us to still get out and do something.
That's fantastic. And again, the perspectives on victory from you guys are amazing. And some of you have already started to kind of enter into like the next question, and that is the transition post Warrior Games in your feelings and your emotions that you experienced during those Warrior Games, and how you transitioned after your second Warrior Games, or when you knew you were moving beyond that time period, how that impacted you. Some of you have mentioned that you're sharing that, which is fantastic, but if you have other ways or if others of you are helping along, but how the Warrior Games experience allowed you to impacted your transition beyond Warrior Games.
So a few of us have talked about like, hey, we do all this stuff not necessarily for ourselves, but for others. I'll continue that and say that even though I'm still I'm in the adaptive sports competition scene in the DoD is what I'll say, aka again, Invictus got delayed this year. It's coming back next year, which means I ain't done training. But I have gone out of my way since I currently work for the Air Force, and so when I come across other wounded warriors, and I tell them, hey, I'm doing this stuff now. Are you interested in doing the Warrior Games sports? Whether they say, I don't know what that is, or yeah, I'm interested, but I don't know about it. In fact, I sat down with somebody about a week ago, and we actually looked up some people's scores in certain events, and we said, hey, these are attainable results. If you want to go to trials, go to games, and continue that thing for you, it's been awesome for me. Philip kind of talked about a little bit about like bringing the families, like Warrior Games. Man, you bring your families. It's awesome. My wife enjoys going because that we've used the phrase the DoD takes care of them for a little bit. It's a family entity. It's not just about the individuals. It's about the whole support system. So post competition, and like I said, I'm kind of in the middle of it again. Yeah, it's about trying to get other people involved, and that continues my success. And with that said, like after Invictus, I'll probably stop doing the Air Force Wounded Warrior competition stuff. But one thing maybe I'll reach out is like, hey, is there other ways I can support in different aspects, right? Can I help out with this? Can I be a mentor to get somebody to games and stuff like that? Because I've had good success with that, and I enjoy doing it. So that's again another way to kind of give back post Warrior Games.
So I agree as well. I'm always willing to help people, and then I also have like my selfish side is I've looked up, the Paralympic side of it. I went and got classified for the seated throwing. Here in 2 weeks, I'm having ankle surgery, so hopefully I can change my classification from seated. I'm gonna try to throw standing now. And who knows, maybe I'll heal up enough and I can get. I've already looked at my standards for the F44 category for the para, and I'm already hitting the eligible list to qualify for the Paralympics. So hopefully I can get an invite to the trials, and and I can represent USA for a second time. I already did my Invictus once, so hopefully I can have a different red, white, and blue on.
Yeah, so I think that Warrior Games for me was huge, like such an emotional step forward in my recovery. I'm an amputee, but at the time I did Warrior Games, I didn't have a leg yet, so I did everything in a seated category. But it prompted me, even like leading up to that, I started in a triathlon program, and even though I couldn't classify into anything, I still did triathlons in that open category. But that prompted me to keep going through so much in my recovery that then when I got my leg, I'm like, well, let's just keep going. Even though I had to start over, and now I'm doing everything in an upright category, trying something new. I didn't necessarily look at it as starting over, but trying something new. And then I got invited to, through somebody else that I had met, that was on the Wounded Warrior team with me, into para bobsled and para skeleton. So I, traveled in Europe and did bobsled with Team USA, and then they changed the classification category, and well, let's go to something new. But that transition, it wouldn't have happened. So I did Warrior Games in 2016, and I never even applied for Invictus. It was just it was that jump, and I'm like, okay, now I don't necessarily need that specific thing anymore. I can go into the community, and I can do that. But it was being right there with those people that allowed me to do that. And I think you needed that. You needed that community and that to allow you to get to that point where you can give back and go and do other things. And
I'm gonna go back to my post 2018 Warrior game, because I'm looking at it from a new perspective. I mean, a first timer Warrior game post. When I got back, I missed the team. I missed the competition piece. I just sit around my house like, now what? But something told me I got to get back up. I got to compete. I got to start a routine. And that's what I did. I started routine, starting to get back into training, starting getting back into that competitive mode. And then 2019, when I returned back home, it was automatic. I knew what I needed to do. I needed to stay ready. I needed to have a routine. I needed to stay in contact with the coaches. I need to build my support team again. So my posts and what I'm continuing doing is always staying ready, always doing something in a competitive mode. If it's training someone else, or if I'm training, always staying competitive, always staying ready for the call. And that's what my post Warrior game is all about. So yeah, staying ready.
Well, I want to add one to that. Like today, I was out and about, and Miss Fowler, she works here at the WTV here at Fort Benning. And some of the staff members here was like, they called me by name, Henry. And I was like, kind of surprised that they remembered who I was. And I asked her again, are you still training? You still staying prepared since they're starting to open things back up? And will you still be part of the team and still train with us? And I said, yes, I will still be a part of the team. And just like it just said, you have to stay ready. And that's something that's been put into us. So regardless of if we only can take one step, regardless if we only can stand up halfway, because of what we've been through as far as joining the military and joining the familyhood or brotherhood, sisterhood, it's just something that's inside of us that keeps us wanting to be ready, keep us want to be in a position where we can compete. Even if it's just, let's pitch pennies. We're still staying competitive. We're still getting after it. We're still not letting our injuries and our daily lives affect us like it was before we started with the military and adaptive sports. Because it always gives us something. This is my outlet. So every morning I'm up, I check the RWB, Red, White, and Blue site, communicating with fellow injured individuals, injured veterans, active duty, and it's always something going on. And I would have never been a part of that if it wasn't me being introduced to adaptive sports and competing in the Warrior Games. So that's my post. I have something to live for. I have something that I know that I need, that needs to be accomplished, and me getting after it every day and staying ready is one of the things that I believe the Warrior Games gave back to me. It gave me back life, because it helped me with depression. It helped me with a lot of things I was going through that, I couldn't speak to everyone about. So getting after it is our way of dealing with what we have to deal with and giving back to the adaptive sports program.
So my post Warrior game life, the first time I did it, it hit me like a box of rocks in the face. When it was all said and done, I was like, okay, I was on such a high, and then I hit like, not the lowest of lows, but man, it was down there. I was like, oh my goodness, how do I get that feeling back? How am I going to be able to replicate that in where I'm at, which is not too much of a support system, not too many friends, but the one thing that you don't necessarily have to have friends for is training. So, you can make training out of anything, a gallon of milk, going to the gym, going for a walk, run, bike ride, so that was kind of one of the ways that I was able to come back from the high low to get to a kind of middle ground where I was sane. And then just knowing that I wanted to continue to compete and had goals for the following Warrior Games and trials. And the whole time I'm thinking about Invictus, of course, since 2014. But then so now technically I'm not allowed to do Warrior Games anymore because of some rules, which always change. So who knows, maybe I'll get to go back. But I'm still kind of in a inner struggle about how am I going to handle that? As much as I try to involve people in adaptive sports locally to where I am, I still haven't quite figured out how to really fill that hole. And I might be the only one that's going through that, but I am searching deeply to find a way to replace the type of experiences that come from the Warrior Games. I do still have Invictus Games, which thankfully I can look forward to that, and it's really drawn out this kind of weird state we're in because of the coronavirus. So I've been able to maintain goals, and I got really down when everything was canceled, and just remembering that I still have to compete took a little time off. So I guess I kind of don't have a full answer on that, other than you go to Warrior Games or trials or whatever you get selected for, you get the super mad rush high, and then you could hit a pretty low trying to figure out how to find that again. But if you take the little things from Warrior Games or trials, the small things that you can replicate within the community that you're in, you'll be able to find a happy spot again. So even though that was a little long-winded, I think a lot of people could benefit from taking that into consideration.
Tisha, I definitely appreciate that that comment, and I don't want to cut anyone off. I do want to finish out with advice and questions, but I think Tisha does bring up a really good point, especially with how the world is right now. And I feel like everyone's kind of like stuck in a place, and they're just trying to move forward. And you might think that you're down in the dumps right now, but everyone is in it together, and we're a team as everyone has mentioned multiple times. So there's so many people that everyone can reach out to. But I definitely want to ask you guys, like, what piece of advice would you give someone who's coming into it or is afraid to even come to a program, an adaptive sports program? They've never participated or never even gone to a clinic, and they're like, oh, I don't know, sports, not for me. What kind of advice would you give to them?
So I'd say, control what you can control, train hard, be a good teammate, and at the end of the day, just know that you belong. We all belong here, and it's not going to hurt to try it out. So get out there and get at it.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen is you show up, you learn that you're just not into that sport or the type of activity that it is, and you can either decide if you want to try again some other sport, or you're like, I can find other things that bring me the same joy that this person's getting from this sport, and I can have that too. Now, being afraid to start something is a little bit different of a hurdle. So a lot of the times I'll come in contact with people with disabilities, and they'll be like, but I don't know if I can do that. I don't want to look stupid doing it, or, I don't want to fail. You can always find small things for them to do. Like if it was wheelchair basketball and they're like, there's no way I can reach the hoop, and I'll just teach them skill drills in the chair. Then the whole thought of missing a shot or being embarrassed because they can't get it up there is totally out of the question. And then talk about what type of positions they could benefit from and still get to play a sport that they might have loved before they were injured, or just never tried it because they were just afraid to try it. Yeah, I could talk a lot about this topic, but I'll let other people go on.
My favorite story is I was never an athlete before I lost my leg. I was a book nerd in high school. I didn't even start running before I had to join the Air Force. So just try it. And now that it brings me joy in life. I mean, we all have to adapt. And I meet lots of people because I mentor for the Air Force, and I'm a sports mentor for the Air Force. And if we can just try and help them, anybody who's new to finding their new normal, try and help them find joy in something that is going to help them find their new normal, and get over that little bit of being scared. Like I only have 4 people because I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure who was just talking, but let me help you, like if you can ask them. I mean, I know you ask for advice, but we first have to find out what their fear is. Like, what are you afraid? Is it embarrassing? Because the first area is, if you're afraid of embarrassing yourself, you're around all people who are either feeling the same way or who have been through it before. So you don't have to be worried about that around us, or is it you're afraid of hurting yourself? Well, we're going to bring you around people who know how to coach you through this. We're going to progress you. We're going to start, like, what is your deepest fear? What's making you feel this way? And then we'll help you through that, because sometimes that's all that's worrying people. It's new, especially as adults. We didn't grow up with this disability. We're just thrown into it. We're not children. You ever see children with disabilities? They don't know they're not supposed to have it, so they're not afraid of anything. As adults, we think that we're supposed to be normal, even though we don't know what normal is. And so we can find out what their fear is. We can help them with that. And then the advice comes from that. And we can help them get through that. And then there's so many things that we can help them find the joy of that new life. Because now I always say I'll try anything once. I even jumped out of an airplane. I'm in the Air Force. I was a physician, and I just got my wings broke my ankle doing it, but it's healed now. So, yeah, and it was worth it. I loved it. I did 5 solo jumps with a round canopy. What's better than that? And I did it as an amputee. I am living my best life. And if it wouldn't have been for adaptive sports, I never would have found any of this.
Hey, I got to learn how to do archery when I was going for Team SOCOM. I don't know if any of you could hear me. And I got to shoot air rifle, which I've never done in my life. And the swim thing, hey, that was an experience too. I did do swimming in college, but this is like a PE class. And then they asked me if I want to do shot put and discus. That's the type of guy like, nah, I ain't going to do that. And I learned that I could do that. And there were some other accomplishments that I learned from the different sports camp of Team SOCOM. And now I'm doing with the Wounded Warrior project. I'm doing mentoring other people how to do archery sometimes on Thursdays. And I got to meet some really good people through Team SOCOM. Got a call once a week or every other week, and just for friendship to keep each other up. You know, and I got to meet some good veterans from our allied forces in England, Australia, Canada, to name a few. And I once in a while got to have met the Air Force team coach who does archery up in Colorado Springs, because I used to live up there and go shoot archery, but now I still do, but I live in Pueblo West. And luckily through one of the guys who Team SOCOM, a guy named James Howard, is a quadriplegic veteran, and he got a grant for me so I can get a recurve bow through our team coach, which is Philip. And I'll be getting that next week. So I'll be able to now practice shooting a recurve bow that will be my own to practice with. But I also, through Team SOCOM, I got to learn how to play golf ever in my life. So I do that once in a while with the Wounded Warrior Project. But I now have 2 or 3 used clubs, golf clubs, to go out and play golf in my backyard, which I do. And all the stuff that I've done, I never did before when I was in the service or even going in to the military or even thought about doing. But because of the CARE Coalition told me, go out and try and see what you could do. It didn't matter if you won anything or have any victories that way. I mean, I never won any events or anything like that when I tried out and was in the Warrior Games. But I got the mentor in 2018 at the Air Force Academy, a couple of the guys, for archery. And I mean, that's like the only 2 Warrior Games I've been to. But I made some really good friends with people there, and I keep in contact with them. And through, I say, the Warrior, the whole Warrior Games and the SOCOM training camps, I've really enjoyed. That was something I look forward to going to meet, not just doing the training, but just meeting other veterans and talking to them and making friendships. And so, like I said, halfway around the world. But it's cool, with the internet to keep in contact with everyone. And there's some really good coaches there on the different teams I met. As a Marine Corps guy, I remember he was the coach, he was like the archery coach. And he was really cool. And there were some other coaches I remember from other teams. They're really good people too. I just don't remember their names and all that, but my memory's not all that great with names. But there were some really good veterans I made good friends with. I'm done.
Neil, thank you. There are so many resources out there. And before we wrap up, I want to provide another resource for you guys. Thankfully, someone who has joined us today is the Director of Program Requirements from OSD, DHA. He manages, he's Director of the RCC program, the MASS program, the Caregiver program. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. But Jonathan Morris, I definitely wanted to give him a second to speak.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I snuck in to listen to everybody chat this afternoon and tell their stories. It's always good to hear because I've been at this. Few of you on the video know who I am and how long I've been deep in the dirt with everything that is recovery care, warrior care, support for caregivers, you name it, and working with DOD, VA, Department of Labor, all kinds of people. I just had a couple takeaways that I wanted to share back with you guys based on working with service members that I have and veterans to let them know. One thing is people talked about the struggle with success when you do sports. And there is no success, and I've learned this 100 times over, without failure, whether it's little bits of failure or big failures. Sometimes you just got to get up and do it again to get there. And I encourage all of you, when you talk to people, because I've done it hundreds of times, to tell them, give it a try. Worst thing they can do is you could actually enjoy it. Another one I want you to do is make sure that you do buddy checks with people and talk about sports beyond Invictus Games and Warrior Games and ways to get out there and share what you do to get people out of bed and off the couch and no longer couch potatoes. Because as we know, yesterday was the end of Suicide Prevention Month, but like I tell people, it's Suicide Prevention year-round, because that's what we need to make sure that we talk about and that we get people so that they're not sitting at home doing nothing. And then the last thing I wanted to share is you all know that you have the National Resource Directory in our office available to you anytime. The National Resource Directory has the Adaptive Sports tab on it. And I encourage you guys, if you know about resources within your communities that are supporting adaptive reconditioning, adaptive sports, whatever it is, please let them know to reach out to us so that we can talk about the potential of getting them vetted to be part of the National Resource Directory, so you guys continue to grow resources available to help you and to help others. And I just want to say thank you for your service and thanks for everything that you guys do and continuing to drive with the sports program and the reconditioning. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris, and thank you for joining us today. Philip, did you have your hand up? Did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
Yeah, I think Mr. Morrison kind of hit it on the head about, getting the word out about sports and getting folks off the couch. That's a big thing. My first Warrior Games, I want to say I was probably a little bit cocky. I lift, I run, I train, but if you don't train with a purpose, you don't have a plan. So, yeah, I think that was good words from Mr. Morrison.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, you guys are collectively such a powerful panel. I would reiterate again what Mr. Morris said, and thank you all very much for your service to this country and wearing your uniform and as you continue to serve. Many of you still active, and those of you that are continuing to push forward with adaptive sports, sharing those experiences and helping to motivate the others. As some of you mentioned, you were a chain in the link and helping to inspire that next chain. It's the best thing that we can do. Thank you very much for that inspiration, because that helps inspire us. So again, on behalf of the team, including myself, Patrick, Brad, Kelly, Gabby, Elisa, Jessica, and Lori, we work every week on how to reach that next level of Wounded Warriors. And so you guys represent just such an amazing panel. So thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to perhaps returning to this again, because we know that we tip of the iceberg with what you guys have to share. So with that, we thank you very much for your time today and sharing everything that you guys did.